The verses preceding that, it's interesting. It says, out of the heart, out from within the heart of man proceed evil thoughts, all those things. And then he goes into this and says that to that woman. And it's just like what you're saying. I was looking at the two different words, saying you fool or raka, and whatever that one means empty head, one means basically both are attacking the person, but it's criticizing the way God made him. This is basically calling someone stupid, and one's morasa, and I think one's anyway, but it's attacking the person in both of them. To me, when I've looked at it, it's really attacking ultimately God, because of how he created the being. And I was thinking of Mother Teresa, who in India said that she would, every person she came in contact with, that she would make sure that the last thing they knew was an embrace. If it was a baby that just lived a moment, that it would experience the love of God embracing them as a creature God created them. And just whether it was a real decadent or not decadent, but a real lost person on the streets of India, that they would know God's love, an embrace of his love to them, regardless of the state that they're in. And that's God, that reaching out and caring and showing, this is who I am. I'm loving you. And when I judge and criticize, which I do at different times, and I'm attacking the very God who created that being. It's David when he said, against you and you alone have I sinned. He had sinned against Bathsheba and against Uriah, and against her family and against, whoever, everybody, a lot of people involved. But he saw this is ultimately, this is against God I've done this, because I've done something to one of his creatures. I think he was thinking. I think that's what God's thing. These belong to me. And so when we attack somebody, and we've talked about this recently, to lift ourselves up above someone by criticizing or whatever, ultimately it's against God that we're sinning. Because he says the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, the world, and those that dwell therein. They belong to him. And I just think of, and Jesus was saying first before he said about the dogs to the Syrophoenician woman, that it's what's in our heart that defiles us. And anyway, just thinking of those thoughts. Now I'll be quiet a while.
I'm sorry. I get kind of choked up at that story. I hope I can get through it. But I think, again, he was looking at the disciples. And when she said, yeah, but even the dogs get to eat the crumbs, I think he's still looking at them, at least for a few seconds. But I can see my Lord smiling at her. And he says, go your way. Your faith has made you whole. And I think I don't know if it's recorded, but I think he would have been at least thinking, and thanks for stopping by. These guys needed it. And remember, now, we can't be too bad about the disciples. They did put it down, and they wrote it down. They wrote the record. Peter himself is the guy that Matthew, Mark, and Luke, much was taken from Peter, and there's a lot of stories that are bad stories about poor old Peter. So
because it was inspired by God. They wrote by God going, you have to write this. So
I'll be glad we didn't have that opportunity. Okay, Did that? Yeah. I would love to. We are very little removed now because of the socialism taking root in our country and the evil. We're not, everything, America is always clean. Now, it's not, but where we run around in, well, yeah, it is. But there was a house when I was working with the people with mental deficits, and I had to drive a van to pick up one of the people from that house. And when you stepped into it, it was basically a shack. If I remember right, it was pretty close to one room, but there were 4 or 5 generations in it. Most of them that were products of incest. And most of them mentally retarded. The one that I would pick up, and you could not step in that house. They sent this person to us clean, but you could not step into the house. You would start gagging from the smells every day. Didn't matter if it's cold, didn't matter if it's hot, didn't matter whatever. But there was such uncleanness there. Now, we in America have just kind of gone, well, no, that doesn't happen. It happens. It's happened a lot, and it's coming our way because these poor countries that are bringing people in, this is the way they live. Literally is the way they live. Now, they shouldn't, because America should share with them, right? Well, America has shared with them, but guess what happens? The guy that's in charge steals the money. I mean, this is what goes on. And I would love to say, well, we'll spread the wealth of America. I think probably any American, honestly, unless you're very, very, very poor, if you knew that your money was going to go directly and help poor people in another country and was not going to be stolen and that kind of thing, I think at least the ones I know would go, you tell me where to send it. But because of this, we send them millions and the guy steals it. Or the gal steals it. Whoever's in charge. Anyway, we don't need to go into all of that. But what I'm saying is, mankind, we are in a weird bubble in the United States, at least at this time. This nation, it's so many of the things were biblically based, and the Bible now is disdained even by the church. Okay, we were in a church with a pastor who said, "Well, the Bible, yeah." It's important. But I've also found that there's other books that are just as important. This is a pastor. We also heard another pastor in the same church make the statement, I only get into the Bible on Saturday night when I have to get a sermon for the next day. Boy, I'll bet those sermons were deep. They weren't. That's what was sad. He did have a change of heart in some ways in that, but that's amazing. Wait a second, what did you just say? No, folks. So much of the rest of the world is one big bad smell. And people dishonor one another, and they'll leave a body laying where it got killed, and that's the way that it is. And they don't care. And now you subtract 2,000 years out of that. 2,000 years out of knowing. And remember, it wasn't until 1700s, 1800s, I can't remember when did Louis Pasteur begin to, it doesn't matter, but nobody knew that you touch, I mean, the Bible said don't. Okay? This is one of the reasons the Jews were persecuted in Europe, because they went with the Bible laws of cleanliness. And they weren't bitten by too many fleas because they didn't have the rats around their house. Okay? And to get the plague, you got bit by a flea. That's what happened. In fact, you got bit over and over. In fact, the flea its gut would be full of the bacteria, bacillus, that would cause this. And when the flea would bite to eat, he couldn't get anything in because his gut was so full of that. So he regurgitated the disease into the wound, but he's still hungry, and so the flea would bite and bite and bite and bite because he's starving to death. And he would bite you at the whole time, and no wonder it spread so fast. And the reason it did is because the Europeans went, we'll just dump the garbage and whatever else we want out into. You don't think dead bodies were thrown out there too? Sure. You bet. So, again, a lot of this, we've really gotten away from hell, but is to remind us of the decadence of man, the filth of man, and we don't need to be guilty of that, you know. So, back to hell. Tyler, you read 5:30, right?
Not yet.
Well, is there some reason that you haven't?
If your right hand makes you stumble, cut it off and throw it from you. For it is better for you to lose one of the parts of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. Okay.
And same thing. So we're going to move on to the next one. Luke, Matthew chapter 10. Everybody turn to Matthew 10. And this is interesting. Verse 28, please.
Do not fear those who kill the body, but are unable to kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell.
Now, there we might be able to say, oh, wow, this is where God destroys the soul and the body in hell. Okay, but wait a second. We've got an issue right away with, again, the doctrine of hell. Why? What's the words that it used there for doing to the soul and the body? Destroy. What does it say in the King James?
I think 28. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Destroy.
Now, I want to tell you, you can look that word up in the Greek, and when you do, you'll find the actual definition of it is interesting. The word is destroy. Just thought I'd throw that in, okay? I mean, I know this is deep stuff, but it's destroy. Why do we look at this and go destroy, but it's not destroy? Destroy usually means, come on, destroy. It doesn't mean, okay, it's burning forever, but it never dies. The soul is destroyed, okay? Now, does he have to do it in hell? Can't he destroy a soul and body wherever he wants to? I mean, he can. Again, we'll move on. Matthew 18, where are we at? Jeremy. Matthew 18, verse... this is one we've already looked at. But we'll read it. It's a repeat. Verse 9, please.
And if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life with one eye rather than having two eyes to be cast into hell fire.
Okay. So we're talking about Gehenna. We're talking about the word hell, and how many times it's used? It's 12 times in the whole Bible, and one of the times it's repeating in the same book. It's the same thing. So it's getting less and less that this mighty doctrine of hell is damning us off somewhere. Where are we at here? Rachel, will you, Matthew chapter 23, 33.
You serpents, you generation of vipers, how can you escape the damnation of hell?
Okay. Now that's King James, right? Yeah. The NAS says, you serpents, you brood of vipers, how will you escape the sentence of hell? Now, either way, if we could say the damnation of hell, and that gives it a different ring. Why? Why? Because you've been trained, I've been trained, to think of the word damnation as that is the equivalent to eternal, you never die punishment. But I'm telling you, you could very easily say, I assure you, if a fire ant bites me, and I can get my hands on that rascal, I may not say damnation, but I'm going to damnation him. I destroy that body, and if he had a soul, it's gone too. Okay? I don't know that fire ants have souls. He's got, oh God, I don't think so. Anyway, no, they're animals, and they the damnation, we go, okay, it's got to be that. Now, Tyler, are you looking in the Greek? What is the word there? Now, NAS uses the word sentence of hell. Is it damnation or?
Crisis, and it means to separation, figuratively division, dissension, decision, crisis, turn of affairs, judgment, from what I can tell.
Okay. The judgment of of the trash heap, whatever. Now, I find it interesting, too. I want to say something here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Of the 12 times that we see Gehenna used, 7 of them are in Matthew. Matthew, the book written to the Jews. Okay? 7 of them. Again, what do the Jews believe about hell? It's not there. Is hell in the law and the prophets? Remember, they would have been believing the law and the prophets, period. You understand? And so, in other words, the Tanakh, that's it, Tanakh. And for Jesus to come along, and he's using the vernacular, the sentence of Gehenna. What would they have thought? The Jews at the time. Now, I find it interesting, too, that the 7 of these that are used in Matthew, there's one other that is used by Jesus' half-brother, James. Again, that almost anybody that is a study of the Bible will tell you the most Jewish New Testament book is James. More Jewish than Matthew itself. And anyway, so again, it would have been, what did that mean 2,000 years ago? Not what some Catholic decided, Dante sounds good, let's use that. And it, not so. Okay? What did we just read last?
Matthew 23, I believe.
23 what?
33.
33, okay. Yes, all right. Let's go to Mark. And Mark 9. Esther, read starting in 43 and read through 47, okay?
What chapter?
Mark 9. Mark 9. Now just pick any chapter and just do it.
What was the verses again?
No, you should have been listening. 43 through 47. No, make it through 48.
If your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life crippled than having your two hands to go into hell, into the unquenchable fire, where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. If your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life lame than to have your 2 feet to be cast into hell, where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. If your eye causes you to stumble, throw it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with 1 eye than having 2 eyes to be cast into hell, where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched.
Okay, now there's a lot in here. Again, and I want to point out verses 44 and 46. If you have an NAS, they have brackets around them, because that is indicating that they were not, these 2 verses are not found in the oldest manuscript. Now, I am fully aware that just because it's older doesn't mean it's best, so I'm not trying to get into that. I'm merely saying that in the oldest manuscripts that we have, those 2 verses were not there. And we do see exactly the same thing in verse 48, which is there. It's in the manuscripts. And it's odd, those 2, but it still doesn't matter because we have it in verse 48. So does it matter if somebody repeated it in 44 and 46? No, it's okay. It's still the same. We know. But now we've got to go back and what is Jesus giving? And this is where, by the way, this is where a lot of this stuff, they will tell you, this is why it's hell. Don't you see the picture? I do. The fire burns forever, but it doesn't say they live forever. Their worm dieth not. I've never heard of somebody's soul or spirit, in the Bible anyway, except unless you take it here, being called a worm. You know? Reminds me of James Dobson's story. When his son was, I think, 3, he came in one day, he might have been a little bit older, to his mother and said, Mom, I've got to keep a straight face. I'm not going to be able to do it. Mom, do worms yawn? I don't know if she kept a straight face or not. Do worms yawn? Do worms live inside me? Does my worm dieth not? That, folks, again, what are we talking about? The unquenchable fire in the valley of Gehenna would have been what? It's a garbage dump. The worm. People thought, they looked and they went, maggots live basically forever. Why? Because when you went to the garbage dump, the maggots were always there. And remember, it was the people believed in spontaneous generation back then, which nobody, except the scientist, believes in spontaneous generation now. Spontaneous generation is that from something dead, maybe even organic matter, but from something dead or from inorganic matter, that life arises. Now, I say that because scientists believe that. When they believe in evolution, they're believing that, it came out of nothing. Just, it organically became, or inorganically became organic. Or it's dead meat. And people would look and they would say, the meat is producing flies. But they had no idea until somebody took the meat and stuck it in a jar so the flies couldn't get to it. And I bet that was a wonderful experiment. The maggots weren't there and the flies weren't there. But if the maggots were already there, you closed it up, guess what showed up? And so, but for a long time they didn't know that. Maggots live forever. That's what the belief was. But why? They're always there. They must live forever. You never saw them do anything because people weren't hanging around. I wouldn't have been hanging around at the garbage dump, you know. Could you imagine a good little nice Jewish boy? Where you been, son? What are you doing to us, huh? Hey, I've been down at the garbage dump hanging around with and watching to see where these flies all come from. And after 3 weeks of, and they're, come here, boy. Zechariah, get over here. Beat this kid. You know, I mean, what are you doing? A Jewish kid hanging around. They're not going to do that. It's filthy. So they're not going to find out. Anyway, I'm being facetious there, but anyway. But again, folks, we look at these, and now we just saw 3 more where it's going, well, that's the use of them. Okay, I want to talk about one other thing. No, that'll do it. That's it, yeah. We already talked about it. Next verse. Who we got up next? Miss Davis? Are you it? Okay. We've gone through, what now?
Never mind. I was going to say Nathan and Gabe, but AV guys, if you want to.
Oh, the AV guys.
Shut through the key.
Well, they're not close enough to the microphones. Do y'all have a microphone back there? No. They're not even awake. That's okay. I hate to do that to them. Now, so far we've gone through 10 of the 12 verses. 10 of the 12 verses. 10 of the 12. 2 books. 2 books of the Bible. Now, again, it only takes one. Okay? But when they're not saying what people say they're saying, it's not saying what they say it's saying. So, Miss Davis, drum roll and clearing of the throat. Luke chapter 12, verse 5. We've heard this one before.
But I warn you whom to fear. Fear the one who, after he is killed, has authority to cast into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear him.
Again, it would have been a great insult for you not to be buried, but for God's judgment to be against you so greatly that you were just simply thrown into a garbage pit.
Could I do a bunny trail?
Bunny trail. We've been bunnying all over the place.
I just think these verses, and
Can you
also,
speak up?
These verses I think are so powerful. I've thought often I need to memorize these. This is a total bunny trail, but don't be afraid of those who kill the body. And it talks about the fear of the Lord more than the fear of man. We've talked about those a lot. That a lot around here, but just wanted to say these are great verses that I think would be wonderful for people to memorize at some point. You know, putting our trust fully in our Heavenly Father has nothing, well, it does have to do with hell. You know, I think we're in darkness, outer darkness often, in torment. We don't even realize that we're in that, but just anyway, I just was thinking these are such good verses, especially dealing with putting our trust in our Heavenly Father's care and not fearing our being killed. We're in a time that I think man always has feared death, but Jesus destroyed the one who has the power of death. But to fear the Lord and to trust in His care of us. And these anyway, it has nothing much to do with what we're talking about, but I just wanted to say that.
I thought it did. I thought it was very good. And especially that you got it out.
Yeah.
Okay. And I greatly appreciate you bringing up another phrase that is, you're trained to look at it, and that is the phrase outer darkness. So we're going to have to go and take a look at outer darkness too, to kind of close, but because this is what you're trained to look at, okay? That, okay, I see it. Just like when it says the coming of the Lord simply means the second coming with the rapture, and He gets us out of here before there's any tribulation. How are you going to get a whole lot worse? I mean, I know we still live in this bubble here, but anyway.